and gentlemen, thanks for joining me. It's Monday, so we're going over the best games of the week. And in this video, we are going to cover Sunday night's matchup between the LA Rams and the Tennessee Titans. My biggest questions coming into this game for the Tennessee Titans, after the loss of Derrick Henry, what was this offense gonna look like? You take out the centerpiece, the guy that you ran absolutely everything through, and now he is gone. So what do you do to move forward and to start to build a new identity? For the Rams, this is a huge game against an elite opponent at home. You already saw that Arizona came off with a big win without Kyler Murray, without Nuke Hopkins, losing really early on Chase Edmonds. Would you be able to keep pace with them in a game that you're supposed to win? Now, if you are new to the channel or if you haven't done it yet, please like and subscribe. I greatly appreciate the support on my road to my first 100 subscribers. It allows me to do what I love and keep bringing you guys the content that you love. If you have any questions or if you disagree with some of my takes, drop that down below. I would love to engage with you. And with that all out of the way, let's get into this version of the Relentless Rundown. We will start with the Rams, and we'll start with their offense. And honestly, they were never really to find a rhythm almost the entire game in this one. Stafford was back there running for his life, trying to find someone open, and he was obviously forced into some really poor decisions because of that. There were a ton of holding calls that kept the Rams from getting into that rhythm. It put them behind the sticks, forced them out of what they wanted to do, and it led to those back-to-back interceptions in the first half for Matthew Stafford. That first one was nearly a pick six, where he was just trying to get out of a safety and ended up flicking it right into the middle of the field. Never a good decision, and that was an easy capitalization for the Titans. The second one, he was just trying to force it into Robert Woods. The throw wasn't really there, and it was a really tough throw to begin with, and it was right into the waiting arms of the defender, who took it to the house and really helped extend that lead for Tennessee. Honestly, after that, and I know there was a ton of time left in this game, but it almost felt over after that had happened, because then you put the game exactly where the Titans want it to be. They have a big lead, they can pound the clock, and they can continue to run off time and not allow your offense to get back into it. Between Robert Woods and Cooper Kupp, they nearly had 200 yards combined, so they were able to do some things. However, all of that was almost exclusively underneath. Nothing was stretching the field and taking the back end off of the defense, which that was Tennessee's weakness coming into this game, was giving up not only big plays, but pass interferences downfield if the big play wasn't completed. The Rams were also not able to convert in the red zone, and when they had opportunities, they were not nearly as aggressive as we are accustomed to them being. I was really surprised late in the third quarter. They were already down 21-3. There was about 8 minutes to go in the quarter. And the Rams have an opportunity right at the goal line to get into the end zone and really put pressure on the Titans for the first time all game. With just 3 points on the board so far, obviously that offense has been sputtering. And this was an opportunity to give some life into that defense who had been trying to hold it down for the life of them for 2+ quarters, and give your offense some hope that, hey, maybe we can go out there and put up a couple more touchdowns on this team and come back. Instead, they decide to settle for the gimme field goal, one of 3 that they had in this one, and it really just continued that downward spiral for Los Angeles. I would actually say that the defense for Los Angeles played pretty well, honestly. They were able to hold the Titans to under 200 yards of total offense. They forced an early pick that led to a field goal for the Rams, but they also gave up some critical plays when they needed them most for their defense, and they couldn't fully hold up their end. There were 2 fourth downs right before halftime where the Titans were trying to extend the lead that the Rams came up just short in. Instead of making it a 17-3 game there, it was 21-3, and that really made that feeling of this one's getting out of hand early for the Rams. Really, the only place, though, where the Los Angeles Rams were let down was the mental aspect side of it. They had some really poor personal fouls. They had some just clear mess ups where they were not in the right position and they ended up getting offsides, or ended up giving the Titans first downs on drives they would have been able to stop and get the ball back to their offense that overall just costed them. And that really was the case for both sides of the ball. LA was very undisciplined from start to finish. They finished with 12 penalties for 115 yards, many of them in those critical situations, either taking their own first downs away or giving them over to the Titans. The turnover battle absolutely cost the Rams this game, as those 2 early picks by Stafford turned into 14 points for the Titans. After that, the Rams were never able to recover. This was a huge loss for my overall number 1 seed in the conference going in Los Angeles, and it brings into question, what are they capable of when they're facing elite teams? We already saw them drop an absolute egg against the Cardinals in their biggest game of the season, and now here in a game they were supposed to win with the Titans not having Derrick Henry, they really didn't show up well at all. Right now, I have them as the 3rd best team in the NFC, squarely behind the Cardinals and still behind Green Bay. We're keeping them ahead of Dallas because they got absolutely embarrassed by the Broncos, and we'll keep them ahead of the Bucs right now, who were on bye. I expect a big bounce back week for them next week against the 49ers, and then they have a monster matchup in a couple weeks out against Green Bay that is going to have a huge effect over what the seeding looks like in the NFC. I think as an LA Rams fan, you have to have some concern over, number 1, the back and health of Matthew Stafford. He didn't practice all week with that back injury. Was he 100% in this game? I don't know. Certainly didn't look like it. He had 22 touchdowns and 4 picks coming into this one. He had 2 pick sixes nearly in this one alone. So that is the big question mark. And then obviously, how are you going to show up in the big games when it matters against elite teams? Let's now move to the Tennessee Titans. We'll start with their offense, who was just subpar in this game. The first one without King Henry. Ryan Tannehill had just 150 yards. No one on the team had over 30 rushing yards, and between A.J. Brown and Julio Jones, the 2 studs on the outside, they had 77 yards receiving. So even the playmakers weren't doing a lot, but they didn't have to. A.J. Brown did drop a couple big first down conversions, which is concerning, and it seems it's going to take this team some time to gel and to figure it out, but they did enough in this one to get the win. In reality, this was all about the defense for Tennessee. They did everything and then some for their team to get the win. They dominated the line of scrimmage, continuously making Matthew Stafford look like he was a crazy person out there, and they were able to force turnovers because of it. Those 14 points really were the difference in this game when it comes to the picks from Stafford, and up front, they had 4 sacks in the first half, finishing with 5. When the Rams were actually able to get things going, they went with a bend and don't break approach, and they forced the Rams to settle for field goals, and that was really hard to do when you consider the explosive offense that the Rams had coming in. They didn't give up big plays either. They kept everything in front of them. They tackled really, really well. They communicated. They didn't have any breakdowns in the secondary and didn't allow the Rams to get comfortable at all. It took a ton of pressure off of what the Titans had to do offensively, and overall, they have won 5 straight. This is an awesome feat when you look at who they have all played in the last couple of games. They have wins over the Bills. They have wins over the Chiefs and the Rams now in their last 4 games. Absolutely incredible. And they did this one without their main man, King Henry. The most impressive thing for me was that I think coming in, not very many people gave the Titans a chance to win this game. This was a red-hot Rams offense that wasn't being able to be stopped by anybody. And the biggest weakness for the Titans was the back end and that secondary. And not only did that secondary lock it down, but the front end of it completely stopped any hope of momentum that the Rams wanted, and it ended up being a complete and utter decimation of Los Angeles. Let's not be silly. This team is certainly still going to miss King Henry. There's no doubt about that. However, if this defense can play like it did in this game and continually pressure up front while being solid in the back, this Titans team is going to be very hard to beat. Right now, I have them as my number 1 overall team in the AFC. I think they've earned that after the way the Bills looked against Jacksonville. And in addition, they have the easiest schedule moving forward of any team in the entire NFL. I think that it would be very unlikely that this Titans team does not get to at least 13 wins, and they have a clear shot at the number 1 overall seed. And that'll wrap it up for this Relentless Rundown. thank you so much for joining me. If you're new or haven't done it yet, please like and subscribe. I greatly appreciate it, and it helps me out on my road to my first 100 subscribers. Drop any disagreements or questions down below. I would love to engage with you. This is Relentless Press. I am your host, Avery Mopats, and we'll see you next time.